Shruti Arabinda. So very often in life, when things don't go the way we expect them to, we are always looking for help from somewhere, right? We want help from this friend, that mentor, and very often the feeling that accompanies us when we are in the low patches of our life is loneliness. Loneliness is often a feeling of being alone in troubled times, like I have nobody with me, I have to deal with this alone. And that can often create a feeling of feeling overwhelmed. But the truth is, we are never ever alone. We feel lonely when we forget that one constant companion who is always with us. When we are out of the company of that companion because somehow our negative thinking has shut the doors on that one, that's the time we start feeling lonely. Otherwise, we can't really feel lonely, because actually in everything we do there is an unseen presence which is accompanying us, holding our hands, taking us to a difficult time because we have to learn something from it, and after our learning is complete, the same presence takes us through it. So that something is always there. And so there's this beautiful line in Sri Aurobindo's Savitri: our least stumblings are foreseen above. A stumble is, falling, a small mistake, a stumble. But there's this line: our least stumblings are foreseen above. Whatever this presence is which is accompanying us into everything is foreseeing the smallest hiccups in our life and somehow maneuvering the hiccups and taking us through them. So this is a passage from Sri Aurobindo's Savitri, page 456, 457. This is Narad speaking to Ashwapati, Savitri's father. O Ashwapati, random seem the ways along whose banks your footsteps stray or run. It seems random that life is taking you to this experience, that experience, in casual hours or moments of the gods, yet your least stumblings are foreseen above. If we can just remember this one line, that our least stumblings are foreseen above, it can fill us with so much hope and courage. Narad is telling Ashwapati that although to your seeing, the way life is taking you seems random and you may feel like it's unnecessary, why am I going through this experience? But yet your least stumblings are foreseen above. Infallibly the curves of life are drawn. Infallible is perfect. Perfectly the curves of life are drawn, following the stream of time through the unknown. They are led by a clue the calm immortals keep. The calm immortals, that hidden presence, they are keeping a clue to show you the way. And clue meaning, why am I walking through this path? So that clue the calm immortals are keeping for you. They are led by a clue the calm immortals keep. This blazoned hieroglyph of prophet mourns, a meaning more sublime in symbols writes, then sealed thought wakes too. But of this high script, how shall my voice convince the mind of earth? Heaven's wiser love rejects the mortal's prayer. Unblinded by the breath of his desire, unclouded by the mists of fear and hope, it bends above the strife of love with death. It's such a beautiful line. There's a meaning more sublime than sealed thought wakes to. The human thought is sealed in ignorance. It can't wake up to the meaning of things in life. And it's all written as part of a hidden script. But of this high script, how shall my voice convince the mind of earth? Narad is telling Ashwapati, how can I convince a human mind of this hidden plan in this script? Heaven's wiser love rejects the mortal's prayer. I may pray for something to happen, but if I need to go through a painful experience, heaven's wiser love will reject the mortal's prayer. It won't grant me everything I want, because then it would be clipping my wings. If I need to go through something and I keep praying to Mother, change it, change it, change it, she will change it, but only after its purpose is served, not prematurely. So heaven's wiser love rejects the mortal's prayer. Unblinded by the breath of his desire, unclouded by the mists of fear and hope, it bends. What is this it? Heaven's wiser love, which rejects the mortal prayer. It bends over the strife of love with death. It keeps for her the privilege of pain. He's saying pain is also a privilege. A privilege is something that's good for you. So that heaven's wiser love keeps for us the privilege of pain, because sometimes it's only through pain that we grow, isn't it? So I'm reading this whole passage without explanation, just feel it. O Ashwapati, random seem the ways along whose banks your footsteps stray or run, in casual hours or moments of the gods, yet your least stumblings are foreseen above. Infallibly, the curves of life are drawn, following the stream of time through the unknown. They are led by a clue the calm immortals keep. This blazoned hieroglyph of prophet mourns, a meaning more sublime in symbols writes, than sealed thought wakes too. But of this high script, how shall my voice convince the mind of earth? Heaven's wiser love rejects the mortal's prayer. Unblinded by the breath of his desire, unclouded by the mists of fear and hope, it bends above the strife of love with death. It keeps for her her privilege of pain. Now this is again by Sri Aurobindo. I think it's from Synthesis of Yoga. He says, our nature is not only mistaken in will and ignorance in knowledge, but weak in power. But the divine force is there and will lead us if we trust in it. It will use our deficiencies and our powers for divine purpose. So Sri Aurobindo is saying our nature is not only mistaken in will and ignorant in knowledge. So let's understand what each of these terms means. What does it mean with mistaken in will? Our nature is mistaken in will means what? Can I have an example of our nature being mistaken in will?
It doesn't want what's right for it.
Yeah, we want the wrong things, and we often will the wrong things. Take an example, you have a conflict with someone. Your whole will is directed in, let that person see he's wronging me. Now that's a superb example of being mistaken in your will, because you've all experienced it. You'll break your head against the wall, but mostly nobody will see that they are wrong. So instead, when there's conflict, let me put my will on healing myself than putting my will in, see that you're wrong, see that you're wronging me. That's mistaken will, right? It's one example, but we have so many instances in our life where our will is only mistaken. Anything to say about this? Or am I right in willing that he should see that he's wrong? What do you feel about it? Am I right in putting all my will in, like if somebody's wronged me, he should see that he's wrong? Am I wrong in wanting that, Isha?
Sometimes it happens so that at that time you want it, but then after some time you feel it. Because just at that time you want it.
At that time you want it.
But then after that you understand.
After that you understand.
After 1 hour when the mind becomes quiet, then you understand that.
What do you understand? It's still, why is it not valid to want that person to see that he's wrong and you're right?
It's not nice what you make him see.
Yeah.
Mother will automatically say,
And frankly, how do I know 100% that I'm right and he's wrong? That's something you have to question. At that moment, you feel very convinced, you feel self-righteous. But it takes two to tango, no? Mother has said whenever there's a quarrel, both parties have to be wrong. So how do I know for sure that I'm right and he's wrong? Where am I also going wrong if a quarrel happened? So that's an example of mistaken will. We have no right to judge a person until we know everything about the person since the beginning of time, and none of us know that. So whatever judgment we make, when we are very clear that my judgment is right, that's the biggest ignorance. After every judgment, put a question mark, don't put a full stop. Who knows, it's looking very right to you, but it may not be 100% right. Yes, Asha?
I recently read about.
Can I give you this so that everyone can get it on the recording?
So I recently read about truth and the nature of truth, written by Sri Aurobindo, and he said that the reason why we are in individual bodies is because we each have an individual relationship to the universe, and so each person's truth is entirely different, and it is true, but truth is not something that happens in a particular time or in a moment. It is something that has to be lived individually, and it evolves with you. So there is no right and wrong, it's just your truth and somebody else's truth.
Very nice.
So, yeah.
Thank you, Asha. So this reminds me, we've always said there are as many universes as there are minds. No? Each mind is inhabiting its own universe. And in that universe, there's a different parameter of right and wrong. In this universe, there's a different parameter of right and wrong. What's right in my universe is wrong in your universe. But it's not universally wrong. So, our nature is not only mistaken in will and ignorant in knowledge. As I said, you don't know everything about a person since the beginning of time, then don't judge the person, because you don't know the context, the scars, the complexes, all that the person has gone through to become what he is. So it's ignorant in knowledge and weak in power. But the divine force is there and will lead us if we trust in it. And it will use our deficiencies and our powers for the divine purpose. So there is something behind which will use our weaknesses and our strengths for the divine purpose. If we fail in our immediate aim, it is because He has intended the failure. So beautiful. If we fail in our immediate aim, whether it's a professional aim, whether it's a relationship aim, it is because He has intended the failure. Our least stumblings are foreseen above. Often our failure or ill result is the right road to a truer issue than an immediate and complete success would have put in our reach. This is so beautiful. Often our failure or ill result is the right road to a truer issue than an immediate and complete success would have put in our reach. Do you understand? If I got the success I wanted, it might have been a failure in terms of inner growth and consciousness. But often that failure is giving me success inside. If we suffer, it is because something in us has to be prepared for a rarer possibility of delight. If we suffer, it's because something in us has to be prepared for a rarer possibility of delight. If we stumble, it is to learn in the end the secret of a more perfect walking. So baby keeps stumbling till it learns how to walk, right? So that's a metaphor for us. We'll keep stumbling till we learn the correct walk in life. Let us not be in too furious a haste to acquire even peace, purity and perfection. Peace must be ours, but not the peace of an empty or devastated nature, or of slain or mutilated capacities incapable of unrest because we have made them incapable of intensity and fire and force. So he's not talking about the Buddhist peace of nirvana where we've killed the vital. Vital is our emotional being. So it can't be agitated in a positive or a negative way. In our yoga, the vital is very important. The vital has to be transformed, not dissolved or killed. Do you understand? Purity must be our aim, but not the purity of a void or of a bleak and rigid coldness. Perfection is demanded of us, but not the perfection that can exist only by confirming its scope within narrow limits or putting an arbitrary full stop to the ever self-extending scroll of the infinite. Our object is to change into the divine nature, but the divine nature is not a mental or moral but a spiritual condition, difficult to achieve, difficult even to conceive by our intelligence. The master of our work and our yoga knows the thing to be done, and we must allow him to do it in us by his own means and in his own manner. Yeah? So now, very often, the biggest angst in our life comes from not knowing what to do. We are faced with certain choices in life, and very often we can't make the choice because today our mind convinces us A is the right choice. Tomorrow the mind will equally convince us that the opposite of A is the right choice. So our mind is, because it's in a state of confusion, very often we feel inadequate. Do you agree that often our confusion makes us feel inadequate and not enough? So Mother says that with your mind you will never know, because your mind is not only an instrument of truth. I'll read it out in her words, but she says that your mind is not an instrument of truth. It's an instrument that can receive truth from a consciousness beyond the mind. If it's open to that, it can organize the truth and express it. But it's not designed to really think out the truth. So you'll never get the truth by overthinking. Yeah? But if you make your mind quiet, then from somewhere beyond the mind, when you're least expecting it, you'll get an answer for what you should do. And for me, this happens very often in my yoga practice. When I'm quiet, I'm not thinking of anything, I'm in the middle of an asana and suddenly it'll come, yeah, you have to do this, you have to say this, and I follow it without questions, because when it comes like that, you can't question it, you just know it's the thing to be done. So this is what he's saying in page 315 of Savitri. This light comes not by struggle or by thought. In the mind's silence, the transcendent acts. So this light of the truth will not come by struggling or overthinking. In the mind's silence, the transcendent acts, and the hushed heart hears the unuttered word. A vast surrender was his only strength. A power that lives upon the heights must act, bring into life's closed room the immortal's air, and fill the finite with the infinite. Now, Mother's words on the mind. For the true role of the mind is the formation and organization of action. The mind has a formative and organizing power, and it is that which puts the different elements of inspiration in order for action, for organizing action. And if it would only confine itself to that role, receiving inspirations, whether from above or from the mystic center of the soul, and simply formulating the plan of action in broad outline or in minute detail for the smallest things of life or the great terrestrial organizations, it would amply fulfill its function. It is not an instrument of knowledge. So beautiful. Mother's telling us that so clearly, that your mind is not an instrument of knowledge. So I don't know, I haven't got that passage, but in one writing she writes that don't feel helpless if you can't figure things out with your mind, because the mind is not designed to give you answers. Just make your mind quiet and wait. You'll get the answers from a space beyond the mind, and then the mind will organize what it receives, will articulate it, will express it. But that's the maximum that the mind can do. So overthinking to figure out solutions is really a waste of time. But the mind can use knowledge for action, to organize action. It is an instrument of organization and formation, very powerful and very capable when it is well developed. One can feel this very clearly when one wants to organize one's life. For instance, to put the different elements in their place in one's existence. There is a certain intellectual faculty which immediately puts each thing in its place and makes a plan and organizes. And it is not a knowledge that comes from the mind. It is a knowledge which comes, as I said, from the mystic depths of the soul or from higher consciousness, and the mind concentrates it in the physical world and organizes it to give a basis of action to the higher consciousness. One has this experience very clearly when one wants to organize one's life. Then there is another use. When one is in contact with one's reason, with the rational center of the intellect, the pure reason, it is a powerful control over all vital impulses. All that comes from the vital world can be very firmly controlled by it and used in a disciplined and organized action. But it must be at the service of something else, not work for its own satisfaction. These are the two uses of the mind. It's a controlling force, an instrument of control, and it's a power of organization. That's its true place. So to sum it up, Mother's saying that two functions of the mind. One is to receive the intuition and to express it and act according to what it's saying. And secondly, whenever the emotions act up, and emotions are often irrational, to bring logic to the emotion. So not be controlled by the emotion, but to bring a rational, logical control to the emotion. And that's very important, because in the scale of evolution, the vital or the emotions is at a lower rung in that sense than the mental. So the mental should bring sanity to the insanity of the vital. That's what the mind is for. So we are very emotional creatures. When we are in the grips of emotion, we have to develop our mental logic to somehow not let the emotions play havoc with us. Now Mother's words. Oh, why be restless and want that for oneself things should turn out in one way and not another? Why decide that a particular set of circumstances will be the expression of the best possibilities and then launch into a bitter struggle so that these possibilities may be realized? Why not use all one's energy solely to will in the calm of inner confidence that thy law may triumph everywhere and always over all difficulties, all darkness, all egoism? How the horizons widen as soon as one learns to take this attitude. How all anxiety vanishes, giving place to a constant illumination to the omnipotence of disinterestedness. So Mother's saying that why are we so restless that things should go the way we want? Instead of being restless that I want these particular results, why not use all one's energy to will in the calm of inner confidence that thy law may triumph everywhere and always over all difficulties, all darkness, all egoism. Now these are, so very often we are struggling to want things to turn out our way, right? And if they don't turn out our way, we feel unhappy. But do we really have a control over things to that extent? If we agree with what the Vedas say, that not even a leaf falls from the tree to the ground without a higher will, so that will is so controlling that if what we want contradicts the dictates of that will, do we stand a chance that things will go our way? Not really, right? And yet we are always trying to control things to make ourselves secure, because somewhere we don't trust this higher will enough. We feel that what we are thinking is better for us than the universal will that is making everything happen. But if we lived in a state where we constantly remembered that everything is somewhere happening by the higher will, yes, that will is constantly being distorted by human ignorance, true. It's not happening in its pristine purity, but somewhere the will always has a control. So keep that in mind as I read you Ramana Maharishi's words. They are very beautiful. He says the only freedom you have is to turn your mind inward and renounce activity there. If you just say yes to what life brings without, overthinking things, Ramana is saying that's the only free will you finally have. But since the individual is an illusory entity produced by imagination of the mind, itself an illusory entity springing from the I thought, your mind cannot be stopped by your will. The will that controls even the mind's reactions to events, its ability to remain detached as mere witness without the sense of doership, must be one supreme will. This ability then, from the individual standpoint, cannot actually be free will but freeing will. I'm reading this again. The will that controls even the mind's reaction to events, its ability to remain detached as mere witness without the sense of doership, must be one supreme will. This ability, from the individual standpoint, cannot actually be free will but rather freeing will. So he said at one level that the only free will you have is to surrender. But this has been willed in you by that one supreme will. So this is not free will, it's freeing will. It's freeing you, it's setting you free. The bound cannot choose, the free do not choose. What a gem. Those who are bound by ignorance, they cannot choose, they have no free will. They are puppets in the hands of Prakriti. Yeah? Every thought you're thinking just now is a sum total of all the thoughts you've thought since the beginning of time. So the bound cannot choose, the free do not choose, the masters don't choose. They are one with the supreme will and they are just doing what that will tells them to do. If we identify free will as the power which restores the suffering individual to his original identity, returns him to his blissful source on the path described by the Guru, then the outgoing path of creation may be designated as binding will. So he talks about freeing will. Freeing will is the will which makes you surrender, and binding will is our imagined free will in Prakriti, which says, I want this, I'll control this, I'll do that. That's actually the binding will. Clear? In any case, there is only one will, that of Ishwar, of God. So what we can get out of this is that whenever we are very agitated, the best thing to do before we take external action, yes, circumstances can be agitating, but if you're agitated and you're trying to quell the agitation outside, you cannot do it, because remember, your outside will only mirror your inside. It's a law of life that your outside reflects your inside. So if you're agitated and you're trying to make the situation outside non-agitated, it can't work. So the best thing is leave the situation for the moment. Bring peace to your agitation inside. Then somehow address whatever has to be addressed outside. 9 times out of 10, if you really quell the agitation inside, the universe corrects itself outside. Or in that calmer state, you'll just know what to do instead of just screaming and shouting and lashing out, which will only make the situation worse. If you just calm down, sit with yourself, when you correct yourself inside, the universe outside will 9 out of 10 times correct itself. So, and about this freeing will, this one will of Ishwar, which is making everything happen, Sri Aurobindo writes so beautifully. We come back to these lines again and again. This is Ashwapati, Savitri's father, telling Narad. Narad has just told Ashwapati that Savitri is going to marry a man who's going to die in a year. So or he's hinted it, he's not yet, but he's hinted something ominous. So Ashwapati is replying, if there is more, then all can still be well. Whether it seem good or evil to men's eyes, only for good the secret will can work. Yeah, it may seem good or evil to us, but only for good the secret will can work. Our destiny is written in double terms. Through nature's contraries, we draw nearer God. So our destiny is written in double terms, good and evil. But through these contraries of good and evil, we draw nearer God. Then somebody asked Mother a question, can one help the world with a vibration of goodwill? So suppose there's chaos around me, there's chaos in the outer world, there could be chaos in family life, etc., etc. So someone asked Mother a question, can one help the world with a vibration of goodwill? So Mother replies, with good wishes one can change many things. Only it must be an extremely pure and unmixed goodwill. It is quite obvious that a thought, a perfectly pure and true prayer, if it is sent forth into the world, does its work. But where is this perfectly pure and true thought when it passes into the human brain? There are degradations. If through an effort of inner consciousness and knowledge, you can truly overcome in yourself a desire, that is to say, dissolve and abolish it. If through inner goodwill, through consciousness, light, knowledge, you're able to dissolve the desire, you will be, first of all in yourself, personally 100 times happier than if you had satisfied this desire. Then it will have a marvelous effect. It will have a repercussion in the world of which you have no idea. It will spread forth. So I'll remind you of the phenomena of the 100th monkey. So ecologists found this phenomena that on an island there was some monkeys who started plucking potatoes, soaking it in water. The water was salty and eating it, and the potatoes tasted sweeter. So now monkey see, monkey do. So all the monkeys started copying this monkey, and till most of the monkeys on that island were soaking potatoes in water and then eating it. But what ecologists found amazing is that all the monkeys of that species all over the world who weren't even connected to this island by landmass, they started soaking potatoes in water and eating. So it seems like there's a collective mind of a species, and when a critical mass of that species, a critical number, makes a change, the change spreads like wildfire in the whole species. So this applies to us. If enough of us choose to bring ourselves to peace and we reach that critical mass, then that peace will spread in the whole world. That's what Mother's saying. You have no idea how it will spread. Instead of doing dharnas and morchas and all that, yes, there's a place for all that. But if you do inner work, remember, consciousness is always more powerful than outer action. If you work on your consciousness and overcome a rigidity in you, a desire in you, a need to fight in you, this is something the ego loves. We love to fight. No, there's a kind of need to fight, a need to prove ourselves right, a need to, as people say, rap people on their knuckles so they don't do it to us again. There's a need in us for all that, but really there's so much truth in the cliche, an eye for an eye makes the whole world blind. You will change that person who has in your mind wronged you much more if you change conflict in yourself towards the person. If you actually bring yourself to peace inside you towards the person, that peace has to reach the person, but it has to be authentic. It's not that I zip up and don't speak, but inside I'm thinking all kinds of negative things about the person. Then it's worse, then it's better to speak. But if I can really work on myself to widen, see, the need to fight comes when you become narrow. You know, we keep saying Anu, small, and when you become vast, the need to fight drops away. When you widen yourself, everything seems too small, if you know what I mean. But these are words unless you actually do it. So how would you actually do it? Suppose you're feeling very wronged by a person, very wrong. They've done something which you feel is unacceptable. How can you come to peace with it inside yourself? Offering, yes, offering the situation to mother is one way, but don't do just that, because you'll offer it one moment, forget about it. There's inner work required. Offering is good, it's a starting point, but after that there's inner work required. Sit with yourself. See, if the person's words have hurt you, remember the only thing in you that can ever be hurt is your ego, right? The rest of you can't hold it, rest of you can't be hurt. So what is the weak point in my ego which the person has hurt? Where am I feeling small in myself and the person has said something that has hit a raw nerve? Recognize that and first heal yourself. I am hurting already, so the person's words have hit a raw nerve and made me hurt more. So let me be there for myself. Let me send myself metta. Let me really heal the wound that I already have. Secondly, always remember only hurt people hurt others. Always think of the baggage the person is carrying himself, which he is dumping on you. And in lashing out at that person, you're making a person who's already hurting hurt more. The more he hurts, the more he'll hurt you, isn't it? Because hurt people hurt others. So sit with yourself, send yourself metta, send the person metta. Widen yourself. The ego and the urge to hit back makes you very small and narrow. When you drop the battles, when you, as Karen Miller says, sign a permanent ceasefire with life. I don't want to keep firing because I value my peace more than anything else. Do what you can to come to peace within yourself. Then, sure, address the issue to the person. But then you won't be attacking the person. You'll be very calmly, logically stating facts. You said this, I felt this way. But not that you're so terrible, how could you say this? Don't accuse the person. Don't use adjectives on the person. Just state facts. And the person will many times see what he's doing. But don't put the person on the defensive and don't make the person wrong. Don't increase his hurt because he's already hurting, otherwise he won't lash out at you. Am I making sense? Yeah, Arshia, what were you saying? Please say. But say it in your words. Come here.
Yeah, so face there. Okay, nice. I guess what I wanted to say is that you have to sit with it, as you said, because what often hurts us is not the action that or the word in the moment, but it is brushing against a past wound that has not healed.
Yes.
And that is the inner work that you were referring to, that actually is maybe a hurt that happened in childhood where our egos were just so weak at that time or so everything was all about us. And it usually ends up being something from way back.
Yes.
So you have to sit with it. Otherwise, not just that person, the whole world has the power to hurt you like that.
Exactly. Then I'll become somebody who will just keep hurting by every little thing. The ego can take every little thing out of context and make it something very big.
With Anahita, one question also. I had something similar yesterday. So I shared.
One sec. Isha, can you give it?
Can I share it? Or it's pertaining to this. So you said that hurt people hurt others. So what if you have not instigated or started something, but you're in a situation where that person is like started fighting with you, and you don't have a choice but to have, like, you want to fight back, you don't want to just sit quiet, you can't in certain situations. And why do they even come? I don't understand why they even come to you. And you can't just sit quiet, you want to speak up, and you want to fight with that person because he's instigated you. So what can you do? Like you said, your ego and all that, but how do you just at that moment?
So, yes, when somebody throws garbage at you, your instinct is to throw garbage back. But that never helps. You've learned from the past that it's a cycle that has repeated over and over again, and it has led to nothing. So if you've reacted one way and it's never worked out, then we are intelligent enough to understand that we have to find another way, right? And the other way may be to, when the person's saying all this and the person's really in a state of anger, to walk out of the room and say that, look, I don't want to listen to you when you're talking like this. When you calm down and you can talk to me in a civil way, let's have a conversation, and just walk out of the space. But just decide you're not going to get into that same cycle of argument again and again. Yeah. So Mother says it will have a marvelous effect. It will have a repercussion in the world of which you have no idea. It will spread forth, for the vibrations you have created will continue to spread. These things grow larger like a snowball. The victory you won in your character, however small it be, is one which can be gained in the whole world. And it is this I meant just now. All things which are done outwardly without changing the inner nature, hospitals, schools, etc., are done through vanity for the feeling of being great, whilst these small unnoticed things overcome in oneself gain an infinitely greater victory, though the effects are hidden. Imagine this, Mother's actually telling us that if you really conquer a negative emotional state in yourself and come to peace, you've achieved more than building a hospital outside. Every movement in you which is false and opposed to the truth is a negation of the divine life. Every movement in you which is false and opposed to the truth, it's undoing Mother's work. It's a negation of the divine life. Your small efforts have considerable results which you don't even have the satisfaction of knowing, but which are true and have precisely an impersonal and general effect. If you really want to do something good, the best thing you can do is to win your small victories in all sincerity, one after another, and thus you will do for the world the maximum you are able to do. Quite an eye-opener, no? She's saying your inner work is more valuable to me actually than your outer work. In her yoga, it is like that. Question to Mother. Mother, last time you said that often there is in us a dark element which suggests to us, which makes us commit stupidities. You said that when one is conscious of this element, it must be pulled out. But does pulling it out mean, for example, when one is conscious that this element comes to make us do stupid things, then if by an effort of will one abstains from doing it, can one say that one has pulled it out? You understand the question, no? There is a dark element in us which keeps making us trip inwardly. So the question is that if by an effort of will, suppose that dark element is telling me, give it to that person, rap that person on the knuckles so he doesn't do it to you again, something like that, then by an effort of will, if I abstain from listening to that dark element, can one say that one has pulled it out? Mother says one has sat upon it. So the question is then how to pull it out? Mother says, for that, first of all, you must become conscious of it. You see, put it right in front of you and cut the links which attach it to your consciousness. It is a work of inner psychology, you know. One can see when one studies oneself very attentively. For example, if you observe yourself, you see that one day you're very generous. Let us take this, it's easy to understand. Very generous in your feelings, generous in your sensations, generous in your thoughts, and even in material things. That is, you understand the faults of others, their intentions, weaknesses, even nasty movements. That's generosity, right? You don't make a big deal of people's weaknesses. You make allowances for them. You understand why they are like that. Mother says that, you know, there's a petal generosity, one of her. She says real generosity is generosity of emotions, where you can make allowances for people's mistakes, where you can be generous with them in that sense. You see all this and you're full of good feelings of generosity. You tell yourself, well, everyone has done the best he can, like that. Another day, or perhaps the very next minute, you will notice in yourself a kind of dryness. Look at her words, they are so exact. When you're judgmental, you're feeling very dry and disconnected. So the very next minute, you can feel a kind of dryness, fixity, something that is bitter, that judges severely, that goes as far as bearing a grudge, has rancor, would like the evildoer punished, that almost has feelings of vengeance, just the very opposite of the former. You get what she's saying? Some days you can be very generous with everyone, and the very next minute or another time a dark element will come up in you and you'll keep thinking, how dare he do this, and you'll bear grudges, you'll want the person punished, or you'll want to punish the person, etc. One day someone harms you and you say, doesn't matter, he did not know, or he couldn't do otherwise, or that's his nature, or he could not understand. The next day or perhaps an hour later you say, he must be punished, he must pay for it, he must be made to feel that he has done wrong, he must be made to feel that he has done wrong. This is a big one, no? It grips us like a vice. With a kind of rage, and you want to take things, you want to keep them for yourself, you have all the feelings of jealousy, envy, narrowness. You see just the very opposite of the other feeling. This is the dark side. And so the moment one sees it, if one looks at it and doesn't say it is I, if one says, no, it is my shadow, it is the being I must throw out of oneself, one puts on it the light of the other part, one tries to bring them face to face, and with the knowledge and the light of the other, one doesn't try so much to convince, because that is very difficult, but one compels it to remain quiet. First to stand further away, then one flings it very far away so that it can no longer return, putting a great light on it. So let's discuss this. We are all clear about this example she's given. We've all felt it often. Some days we feel very generous towards people, very non-judgmental, very... See, I would say feeling non-judgmental is feeling loving, because the moment you get judgmental, there's no love. The opposite of love is judgment, no? So there are days when you feel very generous in your emotions, non-judgmental, fluid, happy. That is the real light that you are. And there are other times when suddenly, if the mother says every light has a corresponding shadow. So she says if you have a light of great generosity, that light casts an equal shadow. How generous you can be in some moments, you can be as small and ungenerous at other moments. At other moments when you feel full of resentment, holding grudges, wanting to make people see that they are wrong, all that. So when that part comes up, mother says, remember the light in you. Remember the times when you felt this generosity, this non-judgmental peace. And just by remembering it, bring it forward and cast the light of that on the shadow and fling it far away. First of all, recognize that it's the shadow, it's not who you really are. When the shadow comes up, we feel convinced it's me, and we feel convinced that what it's telling me to do is correct. But when you feel that dryness, you feel like a shrunken resin. When that happens, you feel very dry and shrunken. So however right that feels, know that it's not right. Don't buy into it. Yes? Can you please speak into this? Come.
So my question is, I guess if you have two types of people, one is very career oriented and wants to work hard and then gives the money that they earn to charity to build hospitals or schools, and then another focuses half their time on their career, half their time on inner work, which doesn't have direct implications for the broader world, but makes them a more virtuous person.
No, just doing mechanical prayer is not what we are talking about. Inner work may or may not have prayer in it. Inner work is a work of consciousness. It's not just doing rituals and puja. Is that what you're saying? There are some people who are very ritualistic, but I don't see them changing as human beings at all.
I guess I'm saying as young adults, you think about how to allocate your time, and so then you wonder, should I spend time doing inner work, meditating on lessons, or should I spend time...
Very good question. Nah? So Avantika, what's the answer? Think. You know it.
I think it's a mix. I think it's working hard and then continuing to maintain a balance. Yes. But it seemed like the mother was advocating for virtue very hard.
No. Mother was the most pragmatic doer in the world. Her whole life was about manifesting. But manifesting from the right space. So she advocated creating the right space and then manifesting it. That's why Sri Aurobindo and the mother say all life is yoga. They are not saying at all. In fact, at the ashram, she says if you can't meditate, don't meditate. But work in the right spirit and that will transform you more than meditation. But inner work is a must. It's not puja and rituals and all that. It's just sitting with yourself, sitting with your past demons, transforming them to light. That's quite different from just mechanical puja. On the other hand, if you're just doing, and not spending any time being, that doing is also a waste from her point of view, because it's not manifesting the truth of your being. You have to do in a way that you manifest the truth of your being, and for that you have to make time to get in touch with it. Have I answered? Mother was the last person who advocated just sitting. She was a total doer. So there are instances in which it is possible to change, but this is very rare. There are instances in which one can put upon this being or this shadow, put upon it such an intense light that it transforms it and it changes into what is the truth of your being. Then the question, sweet mother, how can we empty the consciousness of its mixed contents? The contents of consciousness are very mixed. How do we empty it of the not so nice parts in it? Mother replies, by aspiration, the rejection of the lower movements, and a call to the higher force. This is very important. So take that same example, and I'm in the grips of a shadow of being bitter and dry and full of grudges. So she says you have to have an aspiration to the mother to change this. That's the first thing. Then rejection of the lower movement, not to endorse it in your being, not to say that I'm right in thinking this. No, then you're giving it full assent, it can't leave you, it will consume you completely. To recognize that if it's shriveling me up, however right it seems, it's not correct for me and I have to work on it. That's rejection. And to call to the higher force, that's what Mona says, to really tell mother, and mother's listening, she's listening to every thought you think. So really have a conversation with her that mother, I'm feeling this, I'm feeling stuck in this, but I want to be free of it. You help me to become free of it. And it's amazing if there's sincerity in your prayer, if you really want to be free of it, the next day or the next 1 hour it will have completely left you, but it depends on how sincerely you offer it to her. If you do not accept certain movements, then naturally when they find that they can't manifest, gradually they diminish in force and stop occurring. If you refuse to express everything that is of a lower kind, little by little, the very thing disappears. So don't express it. First thing is, don't express it. But don't suppress it either. Transform it. Mother's way was always transformation. Rather than suppress, express. It's terrible to suppress. If you can't transform it, express, but at least express it after bringing peace into yourself. But the best way is to transform it. If you refuse to express everything that is of a lower kind, little by little the very thing disappears and the consciousness is emptied of the lower things. It is by refusing to give expression, I mean not only in action but also in thought and feeling. If you keep overthinking it, you're expressing it in your thought. So then it can't go away. When impulses, thoughts, emotions come, if you refuse to express them, if you push them aside and remain in a state of inner aspiration and calm, then gradually they lose their force and stop coming. So the consciousness is emptied of its lower movements. But for instance, when undesirable thoughts come, if you look at them, observe them, if you take pleasure in following them in their movements, they will never stop coming. This is what she's saying. If undesirable thoughts come and you indulge them and you take pleasure in following their movements, they will never stop coming. It is the same thing when you have undesirable feelings or sensations. If you pay attention to them, concentrate on them, or even look at them with a certain indulgence, they will never stop. But if you absolutely refuse to receive them and express them, after a time they stop. You must be patient and very persistent. What mother's saying is, at least logically know that they are not valid. However valid it seems to you, at least bring logic to say, this is pulling me down, this is pulling my consciousness down, it is pulling down people around me, it's not justified. I want to give away this narrative. At least have that will. In a great aspiration, if you put yourself into contact with something higher, some influence of your psychic being or some light from above, if you put yourself into contact with something higher, some influence of your psychic being or some light from above, and if you can manage to put this in touch with these lower movements, naturally they stop more quickly. But before even being able to draw these things by aspiration, you can already stop those movements from finding expression in you by a very persistent and patient refusal. When thoughts which you do not like come, if you just brush them away and do not pay them any attention at all, after some time they won't come. But you must do this very persistently and regularly. So we stop here. So let's just shut our eyes and put what we've learned into practice. So a little segment of what we did in this morning's yoga class. All of you open your eyes, put your fingers at the center of your eyebrows and just trace this path over your eyebrows, going over your ears and meeting at the occiput bone, back of the skull here, meeting over here. So you've traced this outline. Now visualize that it's a net. This whole thing is a net or a hammock. Okay, that's the brain diaphragm. The brain diaphragm you won't find in any anatomical structure, but Guruji B.K.S. Iyengar says it's an energetic structure. So trace this brain diaphragm. All of you have understood? It's like a base on which your brain rests. So now shut your eyes and inhalation, let it wrap around the brain. Exhalation, let the exhalation drop the brain into the brain diaphragm. Now widen the brain diaphragm by smiling so that your outer eye corners go towards the ears. It's a subtle movement, but exhale and spread the outer eye corners towards the ears. Expand the temples outwards. It's a thought, but stay with the thought. And expand the back of your brain. So the hammock of the brain diaphragm is wide. Now, breathing in, bring your awareness on the brain. Breathing out, drop the brain heavy into the hammock of the brain diaphragm. It will start with a thought or a visualization till you can actualize it and it becomes a very soothing, calming, balancing experience. So 6 more breaths. Inhale, wrap your attention around the brain. Exhale, let the brain drop into the brain diaphragm. With a smile. If it helps you, as somebody in today morning's class said, she just visualized mother's palms as the brain diaphragm and the brain falling into that. So either you visualize the brain diaphragm as a hammock or the palms of your guru and just drop the brain into it every time you breathe out. Now exhale, drop the brain into the brain diaphragm and exhale further and let the brain diaphragm carry the brain as if into the heart. So it's not just the physical brain, but all those emotional knots, tightnesses, as if you're dropping them into the hammock of the brain diaphragm. And then the brain diaphragm is carrying them down into the heart for 6 breaths. It will be particularly useful if you feel that narrative which is creating resentment in you is packed into the brain, and you're dropping that narrative with all its emotions into the brain diaphragm. And the brain diaphragm is dropping that narrative into the heart. If you get it, this is the most complete way of offering. I won't say most, I'll say it is a complete way of offering. And once you've offered, softened and widened, then think of the person you're in conflict with and see if you can genuinely send that person goodwill. Mother's words, goodwill can change everything. Remember, this person is also hurting, and therefore hurting you. Adding to his hurt will only make the person hurt you more. So just send the person goodwill. May you be well. May you be happy. May you be peaceful. May you be free. One more time. May you be well. May you be happy. May you be peaceful. May you be free. And one last time on your own. And remembering Sri Aurobindo's aphorism, God struck me with a human hand. Shall I have the insolence to say, I forgive you, O Lord? That difficult person is God striking me in a human guise with a human hand, all for a purpose, all part of a script I can't read. So where's the question of forgiving him? He's doing through his mask what needs to be done for my growth. God struck me with a human hand. Shall I have the insolence to say, I forgive you, O Lord? So just see that person as mother wearing a mask, doing through the guise of the person what needs to be done for your growth. And see if that widens you more, softens you more. And then hands together in a namaste at the heart. Take a long, slow inhalation. Breathe out with Om.